The following is an interview with Alex Cuervo. She's both a friend of mine and colleague for many years. Alex Cuervo is not just an illustrator, but a baker, and has competed both regionally and nationally in many hot yoga competitions. We would like to thank Yoga Tribe Brooklyn for allowing us to use the space. We also lost a bit of the audio and have included it for accessibility. We hope you enjoyed the interview, and thank you. The links to both Alex Cuervo's website and Yoga Tribe Brooklyn can be found below. Enjoy.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a yoga teacher here in Brooklyn. I've been teaching 13 years, mainly Bikram yoga or hot yoga, and also vinyasa, and also advanced asanas, and back bending. So a few things.
Yes.
Yeah.
A few things for sure.
So I know some stuff.
You do. You know a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to talk to you. Thank you for just doing this. I guess we should start with where were you in your life when you got introduced to yoga?
Well, my first yoga class was 96, and I was like 21, and I decided to take a leave from art school. I was studying painting, and because I decided that I always wanted to dance, and instead of going straight into ballet, because I'd been discouraged from doing that because I was too old, so it's like build flexibility and kind of movement through yoga. So that happened in 96, and then I kind of was in and out in a lot of different yoga classes, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started practicing Bikram, and that was also on and off because it's so intense.
So was Bikram, that wasn't the first type of yoga you practiced?
No, it was
Okay.
vinyasa.
Vinyasa was
Mm-hmm.
the first type of yoga you practiced. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that was 96,
Mm-hmm.
21,
Yes.
around there.
Yeah. And around that time, yeah. So taking a leave, and then I had a very short dance career in swing dancing. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was in New York?
In New York. Like the perfect time for it, and I don't know how I stumbled onto it.
Mm-hmm.
I got so lucky because was able to get a lot of work in 3 years. In the 3 short years that I was dancing, I got tours and commercials, a video,
Cool.
and PBS special, and
Cool.
like really cool gigs.
This was modern dance you were doing?
swing dancing.
It was swing
like Lindy
dance.
Hop, like big band swing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah. And then so that was kind of, everything was about that. And then I stopped around 2000.
Okay.
And I went back to school I switched to illustration. I graduated and started freelancing. Hated it. It's like too much sitting, too much alone time, too much like just thinking about everything that was wrong with whatever I was making. So I went to Bikram class and just totally pulled me out of that. You know, you can only focus on what's happening right that second.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I was kind of like hooked.
Yeah.
So I was doing that and freelancing, and then my husband's like, "You're spending so much money on this yoga. You should just go to teacher training so you can save the money." I'm like, "I don't want to be a teacher," but I eventually did, and it was like one of the best decisions.
Yeah. What year did you do your first? Like what? So that was your personal decision, or that was more for like your partner being like, "Hey, you should do this thing."
I didn't want to go be a teacher. I just didn't feel like confident to be telling people what to do with their bodies. It's it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is.
With any kind of teacher.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But especially with Bikram, it's very direct, and
it's intense.
it stirs up emotions in people. So I had like no interest.
Yeah, and to be that kind of presence in the room for other people is a certain type of personality.
Right.
A sense of self you gotta kind of have confidence into.
And so I had to fake it for a long time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Which is, I mean, I felt lucky with Bikram because you're taught exactly what to say.
Right, so you could kind of hide a little bit behind that and just rely on that to support you until you find your own voice and your own words. Yeah.
And I did. So that was helpful.
Yeah. Okay, so that was, what year was that when you did your first Bikram?
Bikram training was 2011. I did a training before that was like Bikram. That's a whole other story. That's 2010. So
okay,
yeah.
So technically two, both hot yogas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but Bikram was like your first official one,
and
that was in California.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can you talk more about that experience? Because this is a legendary training. Everybody talks about these massive trainings where he's got 200 people. This hotel in California people are staying at. They fly out there. People are spending $10,000 on this training, and apparently it's a very impactful experience for a lot of people who go through it.
Yeah, I mean, it can't not be 9 weeks.
9 weeks
altogether, 2 classes a day.
200 hour?
They don't even measure. I don't even that's not even part of, I think it is 200 hours, but I don't fully know.
Interesting.
Because all you know is that you go there and you come out. I went there and had like a roster of classes before I graduated, before I finished. So it was like, you get work right away. That was like the one thing that was...
to teach?
To teach.
Oh, okay. So you come out graduating and they already have classes lined up for you to teach.
Before, when you apply, you kind of need a sponsor in a way, like someone, a studio to vouch for you.
Okay.
And so that studio, it was in Brooklyn Heights, no longer, agreed to do that for me and gave me classes like off the bat, along with Rudy and Jess. So yeah, I mean, that's part of like the money you're spending. Number one, you're going to get classes right away.
That's paid
without
classes.
Being auditioned.
Was that paid classes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Number two, you're going to be able to practice anywhere. There's a Bikram studio for free.
Okay.
And that you can travel as a teacher easily because they know you went to that.
There's a community of studios nationally, internationally who are recognizing each other's and will let you come in and work here and practice here and be a part of the space.
But it's not the case so much anymore, but it was then.
And then,
so it was intense. I was dehydrated a lot of the time, like cramps.
Dehydrated a lot of the time, right? Yeah, I think that's not spoken about enough in the hot yoga community, is that hydration element.
Right.
Did you witness, just backtrack a little bit more about the training itself? Could you just talk about like day one for that training, like the impression that Bikram had on you, the impression that the other, the whole, what was the experience like,
So I went there, and he had a reputation, obviously, for being inappropriate with women before I went. This is 20,
Oh, really?
Oh,
already?
Yeah.
Right, because this is 2010, 11?
This is 2011, and this is before, this is like 2013 is when like the first lawsuit came up.
Big lawsuit, right.
But I was warned, like, just stay away from him. And be fine. I'm like, I don't think I was like the target audience for him anyway. Like, what I saw was like a bunch of women fawning over him. And I don't know, it was like summer camp for everybody. Like, first day, he's like, no fucky, no sucky, no like no anything, like no drugs, no. But you saw all kinds of shit going on with everybody. Not like I didn't see him do anything personally.
People who's in the training, who just had their own different culture.
Yeah.
That they're developing.
It was like I was in my mid-30s and there's a bunch of 20-year-olds and just like hanging out, frolicking, and half naked, the whole thing.
Right.
So
and everyone's staying in the same hotel together. What is this hotel that
oh my god, this Port Rank hotel. Oh my god.
Okay.
We must have made that the training was there like at least 4 years or 3 years, 4 years. And it was a Radisson.
The Radisson, okay.
A Radisson at LAX.
I don't know.
Like I can't even believe they're gonna keep this place open. Like after how disgusting we got it, because you just can't help but sweat everywhere. Once you come out of the room. But yeah, that's the Radisson. Which is pretty great actually, because it's good to be somewhat cut off and not be tempted to be, anywhere else. And I got a rental car every weekend, and it was cheap because it was by the airport. And so we went out and like to different neighborhoods and had fun, had brunch and all this stuff. So
That's cool.
it was great. First day first week, I should say, after the second class, everybody got up on the little platform stage and had to recite the first posture, like verbatim for Bikram, like he was in the audience. And so there'd be 3 people, and 2 of them would be doing the posture, and 1 of them would be saying all the words. And that was like 400 of us. So it was like a full week of people, everybody, one by one. One person
practicing, one person teaching.
Yeah.
On this platform.
On the
for
stage.
Bikram and the rest of the people in the training.
Yep, just watching.
That must be long.
Just the one. It was long. So me and my roommate, like, we're going to get up first day. First night we got up there and so after that, I had all this time to like practice the rest of my dialogue.
Right,
I'm like, this is fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, and I went up and I did my thing, and Bikram said some nice things, and the rest of the time was like, wah, wah, wah. Like I don't remember anything else. It was just like, he liked it. Okay, I can like shut down.
So everybody stayed in this hotel? It's one hotel? How many people were in your training?
Like 400.
400
people. Can you imagine?
Each person's paying $10,000.
Yes.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
The profit he's pulling.
There's people from all over the world.
All over the world coming in.
A lot of different types.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm still, like, even in Thailand when I went to another yoga immersion thing, I met someone else. Like, we were in the same training. So I'm re-meeting people all the time. Like, we were in the same training. We didn't know each other. Yeah.
In the training.
Right.
That's how big it was.
Yeah. It's like a little city. It's like a little village.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you first met Bikram though, you didn't get any kind of off vibe about him immediately, because it was just kind of like too much going on. He's just kind of a floating figure in the space.
He was very much, the thing about him is like he's very bold, loud.
Okay. But
he's also very charismatic.
Okay.
He's also very passionate about what it is he's teaching. So it was like a lot of,
I see.
Things happening at the same time. And I was warned about his like sensibility, in the class, and how crass he could be. And for me, I was like, I had a stepfather who was Filipino and also just like a really potty mouth. And everybody in my family found it hilarious. So I'm like, like for example, we were riding on the street. This is like when I was 8 or something in the car, and he decides to roll down the window and call out this woman as being fat.
Oh.
Like
I see.
I don't remember what he said, but my mom was cracking up. I'm like,
that type of behavior was kind of like normal
to you.
He was
normal.
So Bikram is not like anything too crazy.
It was obviously not PC.
Right.
And that didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, it didn't offend you or anything like that.
No, because, I wasn't a target of his whatever.
I see. Right.
Of his foul language. So
so you witnessed him badmouth other students in the training.
I remember he called somebody big boobs.
Oh.
Get your big, and she did have really big boobs. And then during like full locust, which is like trying to get big boobs off, whatever. I mean, I don't know if she was offended by it. I thought it was pretty funny. And I felt bad for the one he called like Brillo pad hair. I felt bad for that person. Oh. I think she was like, Eastern European. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I did feel at times like it's like one of those things like you shake your head. And
right.
Like, that guy. It's like the creepy uncle a little bit, but
Right.
he has so much to offer.
Yeah, you let it rock.
Yeah. I mean, because I didn't see.
Take the bad with the good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, just want to backtrack again with you. First yoga class in '96, early 20s. You had a spontaneous dance career in swing, 3 years, commercial, PBC special, tour. Get into illustration, amazing artist as well.
Oh, thank
Some
you.
of your drawings are in the studio here. Did illustration for a little while, but wasn't content with the way you were approaching illustration at that time, the way your mind was seeing your artwork, and you weren't content with what you were doing, with the quality of your work at that time. Like, what was turning you off about?
A few things. One is like to be that I didn't have the temperament then to be able to sit and just make If I had an assignment, it was different. But if I was working on my own stuff, like I think learning from this job, for me, I kind of need like immediate gratification.
Okay.
So I'm just sitting alone and just drawing for no one.
Right.
I'm like, it's a little bit like, what's the point? Right. Now I kind of do it for myself, and it's rewarding, just because it's nice. I just like it as an activity. Yeah.
Skill to have.
And yeah, I didn't know going in that there were no more in-house freelance jobs. Like, the work is only, you have to do it from, at home or your own studio.
Okay.
So had I known that, I might have chosen differently, because I kind of got away from fine arts painting for that reason. Because to have your career and, day to day be so nebulous, be so like, just up in the air all the time, it just didn't feel good. And so this is why like teaching or going into Bikram training was so great, because right away I knew where I had to be on the day to day.
Yeah. Right.
And I had thought about vinyasa teacher training also at the same time, and I kind of even like took a vinyasa teacher that I really loved like out for coffee to ask him about it. And
okay.
Like the audition process was like weird to me, and I mean I understood it, but having auditioned so many times for dance, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah. But with Bikram, it's like, you have your certification, you're good.
You're good to go now.
So yeah.
Okay, so after you, what other impactful moment during that first training happened that you can recall?
The first impactful moment?
You went to the training, you saw Bikram, you saw where you were staying, you were going through your dialogue, and what other moments of that training were like impactful to you? What were some key takeaways for you?
I felt that I was, it's hard to say. There was so much struggle, but and the classes, and I don't remember anything about the classes, because I just remember just trying to survive.
You practice twice a day?
Twice a day.
Twice a day. Okay, 2 90-minute classes a day.
Right.
Every day.
Yeah, Monday through Friday. Saturday 1 class. Sunday we had off.
Wow, it's a lot of sweating.
It's a lot, yeah. So yeah, exactly. So it's hard for me to stay hydrated.
Yeah. What was your rehydration method? Like, were you intentional about rehydrating at that time?
Oh yeah. I mean, my teacher in Brooklyn, he's like, go get Bloody Mary mix, like first thing, like tomato juice and all that stuff. Like it has a right amount of salt or whatever. So I did that. Whatever electrolytes I had around then, that's what I was taking. One time I did have to be like fed like Pedialyte because I was so dehydrated, but that happened just the one time. But there was one day, like the first night after class, because I'm anxious now. I was way more anxious then. Okay. And after the first class, my whole body was seizing up, like stiff. I couldn't move from all the cramping.
Oh, wow.
So much so that my roommate had to call my studio, the studio owners, to like ask him what to do. And that's when he's like, salt, Bloody Mary mix, not Bloody Mary, but Bloody Mary mix. That was impactful.
Wow, I bet. Okay.
But also just meeting all these great people in my group from all over the place. I think that was also really just, it meant a lot to see different backgrounds, different ages, different histories. Like a lot of people recovering from drug addiction or diseases who are really super passionate. That was more so than the classes themselves, kind of.
I see.
And posture, and then he would do lectures, of which I remember so little. Because it's like by that time of the night you're so exhausted. Yeah. But
what was your 2 classes a day? How long was a day?
First class is like 7 a.m.
Oh wow.
And then a break for breakfast, and then we did like posture clinic. So our group, we were all broken up into like 10-person groups, and so we'd all have to go up and recite dialogue for whatever posture that day, and there'd be a guest teacher who talked to us about it. And then I guess lunch before the second class. And then after the second class, we'd have lecture. And I don't know if that's as legendary with him, but like people used to complain about being kept up all night, like with him. Well, he has like a fear of being alone, so he'd want us to stay up with him and watch Bollywood movies. Yeah.
Even now.
Yeah. So we did that sometimes, which I quite enjoyed. I don't know.
That's cool.
I still have to dig up. This is really good version of the Mahabharata that he played for us. It's like from the 80s. Really like, low tech kind of, graphics and whatever. It was really cool though.
I've seen this in my Yoga to the People training.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
I played that. Is Ganesha in there as like a baby elephant in a cave somewhere?
I remember the it's not Krishna. Who
Arjuna?
was
Arjuna and Krishna. Arjuna's the prince. I think Krishna.
No, it's not Arjuna. The goddess, Kali, with blue. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
That's really interesting. Cool. Yeah. That's so funny. He's a funny guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like the other usual lectures about like having invented disco and whatever, curing all these celebrities and whatever. Those kinds of stories come up too.
So after your training, you start teaching immediately in Brooklyn. With Yoga Tribe was then Bikram Park Slope, and another Brooklyn studio. What was this other studio you were teaching?
Brooklyn Heights.
Brooklyn Heights.
It's actually where I started practicing advanced, the advanced series with them. Who
introduced you to the advanced series?
That was the first training that I went to before Bikram. They had the co-founder was this woman from Amsterdam who had competed and won there. And so she was really influential to me. She was great.
Okay.
And one of the other teachers who had recently finished her training, she was also competing, and she was also pretty kick-ass. And so meeting them, and that was the first time I'd ever even heard about an advanced series.
Right.
But when I got back from that training, you could not participate in an advanced class unless you were a teacher or going to compete. So I agreed to compete.
So you can take the class.
Yeah.
Oh, so you didn't really want to compete.
No.
You just wanted to take the class.
Yeah.
So that's how you got in competition?
Yeah.
Interesting. I was going to ask you that next. How did you get into competition?
Yeah.
What was the first year you competed in Brooklyn?
2011. So I think the February before I started the training in April of that year.
So you competed before you did the training. Cool. And then you just kept competing because?
It was a way for me to kind of set goals.
Right.
There was a community that I really, really loved when I first started. Courtney was a part of it.
Courtney Mintz? Okay, cool. Yeah, we gotta get her on the show. Yeah, she's great.
She's awesome. And she helped me a lot. And yeah, all the people there were just really great. So that was part of it too. Just because they were doing it, I wanted to do it. And then afterwards went to training. It was 2013. Courtney introduced me to the folks in Austin, Jeff and Marty, who run Pure. And their attitude about competing is just it's like running a marathon. You just do it to kind of, set goals.
Right.
They were so casual about it. Their practices were really solid. They had advanced class every week. It was no big deal. So that was also great. That was so just for that reason.
Have you competed every year since 2010?
No, I usually do a year and then take 1 year off, do a year, and it's been like that. But I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't done it.
So how many competitions have you participated in?
At least 4 or something like that.
And is regional? National?
I did do a national.
Okay.
I'm just always don't care about results.
Yeah.
I was as long as I don't fall on my face or, you know, like, yeah, make a complete fool of myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good. I
Right.
don't really keep track of like points.
Yeah.
Because after you get up on stage, you're,
Mhm.
you know, you're given like 10 minutes to contest, you know, your score.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about the competition process.
I mean,
'cause
everybody
don't know
goes in
much
with a
about
different
it.
attitude about it.
Right.
But mostly the environment is pretty convivial. Like everybody's like friendly, and
Mhm.
some people are a little.
That's good.
Yeah, it's especially because who I'm like training with. That's always the best part for me.
Mhm.
So it's nice. Like at this point, like when I go, it's like a reunion. Like I get to see the same people from all over the country again. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really just try to stay calm. I think Jared was also really influential in that way.
Okay.
Because I remember being in the green room with him, like with you know, everybody's kind of back there, and he was leading a group in a meditation.
Interesting.
Yeah, before.
This is Jared McCann, owner of Lighthouse Yoga Studio. We both taught there.
And went to the same training.
Won the same trainings. He's a Bikram competition winner. Once.
Yes.
Once. Yeah. And the story behind that is Bikram's wife Rajastri was, you know, working against Bikram and wanted to have a person who wasn't, because he wasn't a Bikram teacher.
Right.
So she wanted to kind of like, you know, sabotage, I guess, the legacy of the brand a bit by having a non-Bikram teacher win a Bikram competition that she supported, and that was Jared.
Okay.
And then he won the competition, and that was his claim to fame, alongside the Wall Street Journal article that got posted about him after he won the competition. He got that publication, and that also like took him to another level, you know. From what I understand about his journey in the competition world and as a teacher. But that's interesting to know that he was a coach, I guess, for other people who were competing. Not you personally, but other people. And he was at the competition leading a meditation. Okay.
With his group, yeah, his little group, yeah.
Interesting. Was Courtney Mace also a part of that?
His group?
Yeah, no? Okay, I'm just curious.
You know, she had been kind of, I guess, a little bit mentored from the people at that studio in Brooklyn Heights.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, cool. So, that's new.
But she's an alien, you know.
Yeah.
Alien fairy godmother.
So, okay, so you did your first competitions when you got 1 year on, 1 year off with your competitions for the most part. It's just something you just want to do just to set goals and be intentional about growing in your practice, and just being able to observe that transition, that growth through these set goals.
Right.
And the competitions kind of force you to meet those goals because of the time pressure that's required. That's cool. It's a great mentality to have for the training, and not let it be something that defines you as a practitioner or as a teacher, which I would imagine some people would fall into.
Right, people put a little too much
into
their expectations around it.
Right. What are the rewards of winning? I know my friend Nikki Ortiz got a green card from it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she got a green card from it. I mean, Jared's got notoriety from it. Courtney Mace got a similar notoriety from it. Is that the reward? Is just kind of like the street cred, the notoriety?
From what I remember, it used to be, I don't know if it is now, but you would get, if you get to go to teacher training for free, if you weren't already a teacher. There might have been a cash prize, but it was so small. If you win, you get invited to all these studios to like demo and do a workshop and make money that way.
And that's how you can make more money.
So I know that Courtney did that. Yeah, not much more than that really.
Okay, that's cool. Just jumping around a bit, there were some things in my mind when I thought of you as a as a guest on the show, it was certain things I wanted to ask you. Definitely want to ask you about your relationship to competing, because I know that's something that you do frequently and consistently. Definitely want to ask you about your relationship with the training, how you got started in yoga. I want to ask you, well, you kind of already answered the question a little bit, how you got introduced to Jared, and also want to ask you about your relationship to Bikram and Vinyasa. Now, you said you started doing Vinyasa first, which I didn't know. So that was already in your practice, was Vinyasa. And Bikram came after. Bikram seemed to have kind of take over and became the dominant practice for a while. What brought you back to Vinyasa? And yeah.
I just felt like I needed some diversity in my own practice, number one, and how to approach the class. Number two, I think it was probably Jared and Lighthouse that was appealing. I think I did that because I was teaching at a studio in Williamsburg that was, they wanted their teachers to do power yoga.
What studio was this, by the way?
Yogi K.
I know Yogi K, yeah.
And they were doing the Baron Baptiste training.
Yep, that's the power yoga.
So she's like, yeah, you take that training, I'll give you more classes. I'm like, oh, it's interesting. So I did that one too, partially. I didn't complete it. But they came in really close to each other, like his and Baptiste.
Okay, Jared's and Baptiste. Okay. I met you at Lighthouse.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was 2013, 2014, maybe? 14?
It was 2016?
Yeah, you're right. No, I think you're right. I was around, you're right. 2016. Yeah, 2016 sounds about right. That was your first Vinyasa 200 hour that you did there. Yeah. Yeah. What was that like, being at Lighthouse and that Vinyasa training?
I loved the training.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit out of place because I wasn't a part of that. I feel like there was like an already tight knit group there.
Yeah, I agree. It had its scene.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it was very much a part of Williamsburg that was young, white, wealthy.
Yeah, it was like, because it was in that area of Williamsburg where that's the clientele who's attracted, and also the location. It was a storefront studio, glass front. It has a certain aesthetic to it already. And yoga's not cheap.
No.
So.
Yeah. No, I mean, they did well. It seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely it was expensive to maintain.
Right.
So I don't think it was on the back end as profitable as a procedure.
Okay.
Because it was expensive to maintain. But classes were packed, for sure. And it was a growing community. It was growing.
Yeah.
And Jared was a key figure in that. Yeah.
But I wasn't a regular practitioner there.
Yeah.
So it was a little, it felt uncomfortable at times, but mostly I had a great time. And it was pretty short, it was like 12 days.
Yeah, something like that, so 14 days straight.
Yeah, straight through, which was nice.
7 to like 8 p.m.
Right, yeah.
7 to 8 p.m. I think I did my training, I don't know if that was like right before you or something like that, or like right after you, I'm not really sure. Yeah, like I did my training.
Did you do more than one?
I did one with 200 hour, and then I did a 300 hour that I didn't finish with him. But I jumped in and did most of it, but I didn't finish.
Okay.
I think 2016 or 2017 is when I did my training with Jared.
Okay.
So, yeah. 2017 actually. July 2017.
We did the same one, but you did one after. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, we did the same exact training? I remember that. That's so crazy. Wow, my brain is doing a lot.
So I remember you.
I remember you too. I just remember if we did the training together.
Yeah.
There was a moment where I was like, see you frequently in the studio.
Yeah, I remember Jared introducing me. I was like, oh, he's a dancer. I'm like, yeah, obviously.
Because one thing what it is I was always taking class there. So doing the training was just like me taking more classes at the studio for a while. Just, you know, it was like I felt like I was doing a self-imposed training for Jared, you know, like 'cause I was listening to his cues,
Right.
paying attention to his sequencing. I was already like, you know, taking heed to what his teaching style was like, his practice was like before he offered the training to me. So it wasn't too much of a shift for me outside of just like the lectures, you know, the anatomy lectures, and all the other lessons that come along with the training. But the practice was the same for me, you know. But that was a good training, actually. We had a good group.
It was a good group.
That was a good group. I remember that group now. Yeah, that was a good group.
One thing I remember that for some reason really sticks is the day he taught us how to adjust people, like at the end of a practice, like in the Shavasana. It's kind of good, like pull and back of the head.
Feet, the legs.
Yeah, and I do that if I have a small enough group. I can do everybody. I'll do it now.
It's really nice.
It's so nice.
Yeah, people appreciate
People love it.
And it's also a nice way to give an adjustment without having too much like pressure. It's a different approach, I feel like. Because often adjustments are like about alignment, focus, or center. This is just more about how can I get you to relax?
Yeah, helping your relaxation.
Yeah, and I think that's what was unique about Jared is that once he pushed physically, he did have this like mother, you know, nurturing vibe about him that shouldn't be undervalued. He comes just as strong in supporting you as he does in pushing you.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that gets overlooked sometimes with Jared because he's
That's
so
true.
physically capable.
Right.
And he has a dominant presence in the studio. But when things go wrong, like if someone's injured, I heard he's like very present, very like supportive and nurturing. And yeah, I think that's something that people who take the training with Jared may not always catch.
You know, yeah, now that you mention it, like he is asking so much of students in class. But so he can come off as, it could come off as just really macho and domineering, whatever, but it's not when he does it. It's very much from a place of like, I understand exactly where you're going through because I've done it too. You know what I mean? Like it's a very like heart-centered.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And I think that's why it's so successful.
And that's why it works. That's why it works. Because he pushes you with love. I mean, he says some things that I think are irresponsible, you know, at times, and to me is not always appropriate. But for the most part, you know, he's had his moments. He's had his moments that I was there. I got like tap out. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't be part of this for this moment right now.
Right.
But yeah, that was an interesting time. Definitely was like a vortex, that space. Yeah, it's definitely a time in my life that I definitely hold dear because those 3 years the studio was open, 2016, 17, 18, 2019, it was 4 years it was open. It was a great time.
Yeah.
I had a great run.
Yeah.
Had a great run.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Those 4 years were solid. Yeah, it was a solid run. I met great teachers there. I met you there. I met Rudy there.
You're right.
Yeah, that's how I met him. He brought me here. From seeing me there. How did you meet Mary Jarvis?
There is a book, Hellbent. Have you heard about this book?
I heard about it.
Ben Lohr wrote a book about going to Bikram training and about Bikram yoga in general. And he also went to workshops with Isaac Garcia. And Isaac was trained by Mary Jarvis. So a lot of his workshops were, like he was kind of the first champion that she trained.
Ben, is Ben in Colorado right now?
I think he's in the city.
Okay, different man I'm thinking of Ben.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, yeah. Benjamin Lohr. Yeah, he just came out with a second book last year.
All right.
Yeah, no. Anyway, he would take advance with us in Brooklyn Heights like a couple times, and he mentioned Isak to me. So that's through Isak, he would always mention Mary. And after a time, I think she still had her studio in San Francisco, so she wasn't really doing workshops, all over. But I think my first workshop with her was like 2013, or 14, I don't know, something like that, 2014. And they were doing it together. So, yeah, that was the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must, she's another very interesting, powerful person.
Have you met her?
I met her once at the Lighthouse, once here. She did a workshop here.
Yep.
She had the weekend workshops here.
Yep.
I did the whole thing, yeah.
Okay.
I got a chance to really
Forgot you were there.
her.
There's a lot of people there.
Yeah, I got a chance to really experience her firsthand. Because I've always heard about her. I experienced her teaching through one of her students, always through Gianna, through Jared, through I've got other people who have worked with her or worked with somebody who worked with her. So I've always gotten the little droplets of her teachings, her lessons, but I never got a chance to meet her directly. And when I did, it was really interesting to hear her tell her story. Do you want to elaborate more on her story? Because it's definitely a unique story.
Well, she was like the first Bikram studio owner in San Francisco. Like Bikram opened the studio there. This is like in the early 90s, and he kind of passed it over to her to run. So she'd had this like long practice, and owning the studio. Then one day she got into a really bad car accident where she was like T-boned by a car and wound up in a body cast, and told by doctors like the surgery required would maybe work on getting her to walk again, but maybe not, take your chance, whatever. And she got really frustrated, and it was a real like coming to Jesus moment. Like she had to really kind of draw from her well of like faith in the yoga. And her thing was always like, if this yoga serves me when I'm well, it for sure as hell better work for me when I'm not. So she put a lot of faith in the yoga. She went back into the studio after the very next day and just basically kind of did a practice in her head, like kind of willing her body parts to move. So she did that. After a year, she got full range of motion. But there were still some parts obviously that were not 100% what she was used to. And she would say like, I was touching my head to my butt before the car accident. That's what I want to go back to. That's how deep her back bend was. So she would stay after beginner class and just she was reading like anatomy books, physiology books, and came up with her own set of drills to help her gain back that mobility. And after a while, people would come and like look around, like, what are you doing? Can I do this with you? This is interesting. And so she started getting the following through that. And then I don't know if it was Isak. Well, yeah, I don't know how they met each other, but he just wanted her to train him. And so she, was very strict. Like, if you're gonna do this, you better listen to everything I say and not complain. And it didn't, and he won. And so, like, kind of, the rest goes from there.
Right.
So people would flock to her studio to train for competition with her. And then after a while, she closed her studio, and so then she kind of just took her workshops, this class on the road, and that's how I met her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
Going from paralyzed essentially.
Yeah.
Completely paralyzed? Was it waist down?
I don't know how much.
Okay.
So yeah.
The doctor said she couldn't walk.
Yeah, I was like that. Yeah.
Right, it was that bad.
It was that bad.
Walk. And from being told she might not walk again to doing her full yoga practice.
Right. I mean, you have to ask her really for the full story.
Right.
Usually when she's telling us the story, it's like between drills and you're exhausted, and she's just trying to like soothe you, and so she'll just tell you a story. So.
Yeah, that was the experience I had after training. She's just kind of like rushing.
Yeah.
Rushing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, suffering,
right.
and you're just like getting these little bits and pieces of the story, and then you're like, oh my god, it's just like round number 32.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Some are like biographical, some are just entertainment.
Right. Yeah.
Some
I remember first time doing that practice. I believe it was at Lighthouse. It was the first time I did it with Avi. I used to teach at night times. It was 6:30 to 8. That was the time we taught it on Wednesday night. I think it was 6:30 to 8 Wednesday night, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember after that, like after doing the handstands and back bends, the wall walks and the handstands, and I would just feel this like pressure in my head. And I was like, this is pressure. And then I got really interested in that. And I was like, this is a new sensation. Where is this coming from? And I would try to find ways to mitigate that. How do I subside this pressure? So not looking around as much. Just keep my eyes focused on less fidgeting. It's like trying to minimize movement as best as I can. Sometimes
was it only during the wall walk, or?
It was usually in between the wall walks. There were the wall walks, but those came in between handstands.
Right.
So I think it was usually during the wall walks. Those were the toughest part of the classroom, were the wall walks. And sometimes I'll get it now too. I'm out of practice for a little while, and I'll come back into that class. And the last time I took a review, I'll know that I'm like, okay, this thing is back again. So that's a sign that I'm not in the groove that I used to be.
Right.
I've been told I was oxygen moving into the brain, and it's you get this pressure of oxygen inside, and usually it's just through getting more oxygen into your system.
Usually, was it a pressure or was it a pain?
It was a little bit of both.
Okay.
It wasn't like almost like a headache.
Right.
But it goes away.
Yeah.
It comes, it rises, and stay for a little bit, and then it'll go away. And at its peak, though, it's like intense.
Yeah.
I gotta take a knee,
Right. Yeah.
Just ground myself and clear my head before I jump back into this next set.
That reminds me of my first workshop with Isak.
Mm-hmm.
And he is, a very different energy, very different energy. But he would just have us do like 30 wall walks, one after the other, boom, boom, boom. Just play like Michael Jackson braces, and we just go down together, all of us together. And he wouldn't really talk much about it in between. And I feel like either one is worked in its way.
You mean talking or not?
Talking or not talking, like taking breaks or not, My first day after doing 30 wall walks, that first time I took a workshop with him, it was in South Jersey, and we were all staying in a studio owner's basement, and on sleeping bags.
Wow.
And so I was like woke up in the middle of the night with a banging headache. It was like all over my head. It was insane. I never had that before. I went upstairs to some water or something, aspirin, and it just so happened he had a masseuse like on staff, and he was awake, like eating like a ham and cheese sandwich or whatever. He's like, "Oh, you have a headache? Like, let me help you." And he did some crazy pinching around my collarbone and neck, and it was like went away immediately. And he's like, "Yeah, you have to remember to breathe."
Right.
That was one thing.
That was a good right. So I noticed that too. I'm glad you brought that up thing, because I noticed that if I took sips of air in the midst of going down the wall, it would induce the headache.
Oh.
If I took a complete inhale to go down and then one complete exhale to come out, it would rise, but it wouldn't be as intense.
Okay.
And I noticed that would help.
Right.
As well. That's an interesting thing.
Yeah, and when Mary teaches it, she does put a lot of emphasis on how to get in and out, whereas Isak should just go down, go up, go down, and just which again, like I should figure it out. But I definitely prefer her way now. because of I think it gets more because she is more detailed in explaining how to open up the upper back. Oh, you experienced it too. You were there. Sorry. So maybe give a comment. Yeah, and I never had that kind of like instruction, that type of instruction. Even like to this day, there's not a lot of folks, maybe Nikki does, that explain that rotation of the shoulders involving the back bend and
Outside
hips.
of Nikki, Gianna,
Right.
you know, I don't know, most people don't teach back bends.
Yeah.
People don't teach back bends, you know, and I don't think people have back bends in practice enough to feel comfortable teaching about it. It may also be just something that's not even touch it.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't want to get into something that's unexceptional.
Interesting.
Let's keep the hands off of it and just kind of phase over it.
Right.
You know, people also may not have enough information on the anatomy and the musculature to understand how to speak to it.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a combination of things. Because you take something like somebody like Courtney Mace, somebody like Nikki Ortiz, you know, they're like rubber bands.
Yeah.
They almost have a natural flexibility.
Right.
You and me, we have a level of natural flexibility, but we have to also still work very hard to get to that level of back bending.
Absolutely.
And that comes with its own experiential knowledge, you know, so we can speak from that place, which is very valuable, you know. But I haven't actually had, Jared talk about it. But outside of those names, really no one else is like dived into how to properly do a back bend.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
crazy.
the wall walks have been so helpful to me.
Yeah, me too. That's what deep my back is.
Yeah.
It was a wall walk.
Yeah, almost like that alone could do so much.
That was it for me. I was doing a lot of kapiasanas, a lot of high lunge back bends, which helped too. A high lunge back bend, I think, also did. It gave me the power in my legs to push up also to find that extension. Otherwise, the standing half moon back bend in the Bikram series opened the door, you know. But I I couldn't find enough like engagement in it to go deeper, you know.
It's very hard.
Yeah, it just opened the door for me, you know.
You have to get in touch with parts of the body that you didn't know were kind of
glutes,
there.
they like really work harder to add. But I had a dance background, so I'm different because I may not consciously know things that my body knows. My body's naturally already engaging in ways from dance that I'm not consciously aware of, you know, and that's supporting me in my yoga practice a lot. But what I know consciously did it, floor bug. Floor bug definitely helped because it pushed me there. I remember there were clear markers of growth in floor bug. Even going to a pigeon toe grip, going to the full floor bug transitions, you know, those things were back as I could never think I could do. Camel, that's one that actually deepened it. It would to work towards a full camel. Like that back one was clearly one that opened up my upper back so much more, you know, than I felt previously. And the wall walks. Those are the poses that people try to ask me, well, how do you deepen your back bend, you know? And sometimes I don't know what to say, you know. I wall walks, yes. Because there was no clear, I was doing everything at the same time, you know? So I've taken all the different types of classes. So all I can say to you is like, get as much yoga in as you can consistently, and you will notice shifts over time. But I was also fortunate enough, we were fortunate enough to be with good teachers. As I get around to other people's classes more, I'm trying to take other people's classes and get around, like, man, we really had this core base of solid teachers. It was such a blessing, you know.
It's true, and especially ones that are able to kind of take you to different postures that are difficult physically and kind of emotionally. Like you said, some people don't want to touch back bends because I mean, structurally, not anatomically, it's challenging to break down and explain. You know, people could have hurt themselves, but yeah. So yeah, is Mary? I don't think would have ever been able to teach a proper back bend if she hadn't gone to that car accident.
Right.
She would tell you that.
Going through that process.
If I had been so shitty at back bends myself, I wouldn't have been able to teach it because I can also get my leg behind the head. But that comes more naturally.
Yeah. Right.
So when people find like, oh, how do I do this? I'm like, oh, I don't know. You know, like I'm not having to like go to the books and like online and find out like how actually are you able to do this. So I have to really study up on hip rotation and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, back bends.
It didn't come naturally.
It didn't come naturally. I had to, really study it and I had to really experience it. So yeah, you're kind of become a better teacher.
Yeah.
Than that.
Yeah, and I think I think those are those who are pushing their practice and working on the weaknesses,
Right.
gives you that knowledge base to pull from, Otherwise it's just reference.
Right.
Reading up on it or someone else told you about it, but to really have that direct experience, nothing like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it reminded me of competition. It used to be that you'd have to do the same, everybody had to do the same first 4 postures. When Jerry Wood was like that. And then the last 2 or 3 were your own, like you do whatever.
Right, okay.
And the better competitors are people who are those who are more well-rounded. So sometimes you'd see girls come in like back bend. And they'd score high still, but in general, like the consensus was like a little bit too
much in one direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I brought this up. I felt like there was an integrity to the idea being like, well, yeah, right, having more well-rounded practice for your body, like as a measure of health.
Exactly. That's a good way to say it. And I think that's what I also appreciate about Jared too, is that he's not just moving in one direction.
Right.
He's got arm balances, he's got strength and flexibility. And I think that's something I always wanted to marry in my practice is strength and flexibility. And after I dislocated my knees, I emphasized more strength over flexibility. And I lost some flexibility because of that. I would spend more time in the gym now, in calisthenics and Pilates, and starting to hone in on how to strengthen my inner thighs, calves, quads, hands, glutes, to support my knees. Because I've always had natural hip opening. I always had a natural middle split since I was a kid, pretty much. The back bends are not working on that. Even as a male ballet dancer, contrary to the opinion probably, male ballet dancers are not meant to be flexible. That's not our lane. We're supporting the ballerina. Usually partnering, so that requires strength to lift. And usually the solos for men are not displaying our flexibility, it's displaying our athleticism.
Right.
We're more so
highly
power moves, power moves, double sort of bows, double tours, those kind of things. So I never really needed to work on my back bend. Like no one's looking for a male ballet dancer's penché.
Right.
That's not what they're looking for. We want to see how high can you jump, how many turns can you really do, and how much space are you taking up on stage, and also can you partner this woman? That's what you're getting hired to do.
I never thought of that. It's true.
It's really not in modern dance, like Ailey, those kind of companies. We're starting to see men doing solos where it is showing their flexibility more in the choreography. But even there, it's for men. It was never how high can you kick your leg. That was never expected of a male ballet dancer.
Last things. Courtney comes up because when she was teaching more full-time in Brooklyn Heights, her class is pretty sought after. Actually, Ben, who wrote that book, Hellbent, has a whole quarter of a chapter maybe about her.
Mm.
I remember one of her like my first few times doing advanced yoga, and I didn't know she'd already won international at that point. She was really like low key and
Super low key woman.
yeah, just like modest and just like
sweet.
I didn't know her. Like I just saw this beautiful skinny white woman like in the corner doing everything. I'm like, what? Whatever. Yeah. And then she made a dirty joke. And I'm like, I love you. That's how you get to my heart, really. Making a crass joke about women's anatomy. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to follow you around. And yeah, so my first year of competing, she gave like the most wonderful, like inspiring, comforting kind of talks, like pep talk. And like every year since when I have competed, I would like text her and like say something, tell me something, and she would always, respond with something just like, honest and true and inspiring and wonderful. And like, I not cookie cutter.
Right.
And I always really appreciated that. She's a really special person. And I know she's teaching now, but in a different capacity.
Yeah, I think she does like a monthly special class she does here.
Yeah, and she studied yoga therapy, so
so her whole lane is
different.
Changed. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
It was always wanting to know more about your relationship to yoga. Taking your class for a while now, and your classes are unique. You teach unique classes here. I know you are thinking about transitioning out of teaching maybe more permanently. Hopefully that's not permanent. Hopefully that's just temporary.
I have a feeling, it'll become something else at some point.
Right.
Because I'm leaving on a high. I'm not leaving bitter or, disappointed or, it's a nice way to kind of move on a little bit. Okay. But I have to go back and I joined a gym as well. I have to focus on strength, and my body's not needing something different.
Yeah. I hear that.
Wow. 16 years of same thing.
You've been teaching for a long time, so it's time.
And only ever devoted to that thing.
Right.
And I told my students this week, I'm like, I can't teach something that I'm not practicing fully myself.
Right.
That doesn't feel true to me, so I'm like, out.
That's honorable. That's integrity. I respect that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Love you.
We hope you enjoyed this insightful discussion between Alex and I. It was a pleasure for me to have her on and to hear her share her story. If you want to support this platform, click the link to the Patreon below. Thank you.